Welcome to the Transgender Show. I'm your host, Emily. Each week I interview another person from the trans or non-binary community, and sometimes I'm able to talk. My guest tonight is Jossilyn. She can be found on Instagram at lassie.jossie. She is a self-described 80s Valley girl, and she works in the creative field at a record company. So be very fun chat tonight. Jossilyn, welcome to the show.
Hello.
How's your day today?
Pretty good. I'm just my anxiety is slowly increasing as we approach tomorrow.
Oh, oh yeah, I was gonna say, what's tomorrow? Jeez. That
Otherwise, okay.
Yeah, that describes my state of mind right now. Just so focused on trying to get this show to go off without a hitch that I've forgotten entirely what we're doing tomorrow. I was actually able to vote in advance. Were you able to?
Oh, yeah, I mailed it in like right when I got it. So I put it like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Yeah,
Oh,
I got it. Um, got my ballot on the 4th, so I think I voted on this 6th or 7th or something.
yeah. I was able to get mine done, and then instead of putting it in the mail, I went ahead and walked over to a local drop box. So that was cool. I was really that little extra bit of kind of security for it gave me a good peace of mind. So, and then I did confirm that they have received it, so it's there.
I figured I had enough time for the mail because it was almost a month out. So they got mine too. They got it.
Hmm. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's get into your story. When did you first realize that you were different? What were those clues for you?
I think like it's probably similar to a lot of transgender people. I actually don't really remember not thinking that something was wrong. When I was little, I guess the only way I could describe it is I was a bit sad that I didn't get to be a girl, and I just kind of thought it was the better option, and that I lost the cosmic coin flip somehow.
Yeah.
And I think it's a common theme throughout transgender people's lives too. I mean, I obviously knew. I mean, like when I was 5, I knew like zero about transgender people. So at different stages in my life, there was different, mental gymnastics that happened to rationalize or like kind of analyze my thoughts. And I just thought that that's what it was like to be a boy. Like you didn't get to be a girl, but you like I liked girls, so
Hmm.
I don't know. I got to enjoy them, or I don't know. I thought other boys were dealing with it better, or like they weren't as introspective. I didn't really know, but I figured that's what it was like. And also in general, too, I think I had like a general sense um, that something was wrong, like with
Okay.
everything. It was just like it felt like something was wrong with me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. A lot of times I thought it was other things that were going on when I was a kid, but in general, I think that yeah, things also just didn't feel right. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question simply, I can't remember not um, feeling like something was off.
Hmm. Were there any specific things that you were jealous of that the girls were doing? Anything that you remember that was specifically that you were really bummed out that you couldn't partake in?
I know that like when children who are transgender, they often latch on to like social things that are associated with the other sex, and like things beyond physical characteristics, like maybe they want to wear their mom's clothes or they're into makeup or things like that. But I was generally just sad that I didn't get to be like a girl and a woman. I guess I was sad about not being able to have kids, and like
Hmm.
I just like the whole thing. I wasn't particularly interested in any of like the social things because I kind of knew the difference, I guess. And all those things kind of come along with. It's all made up, but a lot of it is like based on physical characteristics of binary sexes. So yeah, I don't really. There's nothing specific, but I remember being sad that I wouldn't get to be a mom. I remember just some things about that when it had to do with clothes, it had to do with the body, like bathing suits and stuff like that. I was sad that I didn't get to look like cute and pretty, and I just didn't really care what I looked like. I don't know. I would rather look the other way. I don't know. Just
Hmm.
like kind of that simple.
Yeah, that was a big one for me too. I was always super jealous that of women that were pregnant. Yeah, there were just lots of those little things, like you said, like bathing suits and things like that. Like it was just a bummer that I, we couldn't wear the cute stuff. When did you finally realize that what it was that you were trans?
Well, I don't think that I knew what being transgender was, or even that like it was a possibility to know what it was till somewhat recently.
Hmm.
I will say that the first time I kind of like said to myself or someone else that I was trans, and I don't really consider this coming out because it was like a confusing moment, but it was like right after high school. I was still kind of like dealing with puberty and stuff like that. And I told my friend, who's one of my oldest friends, I'm still good friends with her. I told my friend Yvette, I don't know remember what we were talking about, but I was struggling with a lot of stuff, and
Okay.
I said to her the exact phrase, I feel like a lesbian trapped in a guy's body, and then I kind of was like, oh, but it like kind of works out pretty good because I like girls, and like I guess it's fine. And we both kind of laughed about it, but it was a way that I could describe like how I interacted with things and what I liked, and yeah, I think that's like the first time I like acknowledged that I was transgender, even though I didn't know how to say it at the time.
Okay.
I will say that I didn't really know what transgender was like in a healthy way. Like I knew the term transsexual and cross-dresser and things like that 20 years ago, but I don't think I knew what it meant to be transgender until the last 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really consider myself transgender till about probably 10 years ago, maybe five, like between 5 and 10 years.
What were some of the things that you sort of struggled with once you finally realized that transgender was something that defined you, defined what you'd always been feeling? Did that bring about anything that was kind of challenging to you?
The thing is that even when I understood what it was to be transgender, as I still thought it was something that was wrong with me and that maybe I indulged in it or grinded the gears. I There's so much transphobia in society, and I grew up in like a religious area and family, and even though there was a lot of good people, um, I just had it so deeply ingrained in me that it was a horrible thing. So even when I understood, like, I mean, I didn't know that hormones change your body so much until, I mean, like maybe 10 years ago. So I didn't really like, I didn't understand all that stuff. So the hardest
Mm-hmm.
thing for me was actually seeing all those things and then still thinking it was like not good, I guess, and like not okay.
Yeah.
And like I considered myself transgender, yeah, like I don't know, something close to 10 years ago, but I still thought it was like kind of like my fault, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that was the hard part, I guess, is that I still didn't really think it was like a good thing.
I mean, you have a really good look to you. You've really got makeup down and everything, and you've got a lot of followers on Instagram. What kind of helped you turn that corner and embrace being transgender and dive fully into it?
Well, I think what happened is there was some phases in my life that like where my understanding of what it meant to be transgender and understanding of what was happening to me mentally versus physically. Looking back, I kind of like I already told you what I understood of it when I was little and kind of in my teens. In my 20s, I really just thought it was something that was I kind of daydreamed about being a girl. I just like when I saw something that looked like me, I was like it would tear me apart kind of because I like a girl version of me. I just it would make me so sad that I just didn't get to like live my life and enjoy myself that way, and I didn't have to do anything. I could just be myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I still thought even in my 20s that it was like something that you maybe go get surgery and like vanish, or even when I got close to my 30s, I didn't even really understand that hormones can change your body that much. And I was like, wow, you can like take hormones and it actually changes your body. You actually have a chance to like have your body. And even still, like I said, I still thought it was like kind of like I thought it was degenerate, just like that's what we're taught. And yeah, sometime after I'd been married, and I really went into my marriage. I don't know, like if if anybody has talked in therapy about it before, but it's a common theme where it's called duplicity, and you kind of have two lives going in your head, and they really affect each other, but they don't actually interact for you. So, like, I had this whole thing in my head where I would daydream about having a different body and being this other person, but it was so I was so ashamed of it.
Hmm.
Um, so it didn't really like I didn't realize that it was affecting me so much, but it was. I started seeing people not just some people just like going to work and like having families, and I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could just like be a normal person, and you really couldn't until recently. So I
Hmm.
saw people just living their lives, and
You
they
saw
were
transgender people?
yeah. I saw transgender people, people on Reddit. Reddit was probably the first place that I saw people just, you know, their lives were still hard and they were still hard as being transgender, but they could live them out in the open.
Hmm.
Um, and I just didn't know you could do that. So, yeah, going to my marriage, I didn't really know that. And at some point, my marriage fell apart not so long ago. And it wasn't because of this directly, but I was pretty unhappy. And what happened was I started taking care of myself, and when I realized my marriage was definitely over and not recoverable,
Hmm.
I realized to really take care of myself, I needed to transition, and I didn't care anymore. I tried so hard to do all this stuff, and it didn't matter. So I was like, I'm gonna go get some estrogen.
Well, that's awesome that it worked out so well for you. So, one of the first things that you did was start on hormones then, huh?
Well, it's not like I didn't have talk about it in therapy or anything, but I was so sure about it, and I'm lucky to live in a I know I'm lucky to live in an informed consent state like California,
Hmm.
and Planned Parenthood has HRT actually. Yeah, once I decided to do it, I found out the Planned Parenthood walking distance from my house had started at 2 weeks prior, and I was like, it was like 3 in the morning or something, and I made an appointment online, and like less than 24 hours later, I had estrogen. So I feel really lucky to live here.
And how long ago was that?
I actually had a little false start because that was like April of 2019. It was the middle of April, and I went to Planned Parenthood. I was still like struggling with horrible internal transphobia, and I still thought my marriage was like falling apart around me too, and like so many other horrible things were happening in my life. So I was so excited to take it, but I felt so guilty. I thought I was taking stuff from my family,
Hmm.
and I actually stopped taking it after like 3 weeks. I started taking it again though like a month later, and I
Okay.
haven't stopped since then. So that was June
Hmm.
2019. So I'm approaching a year and a half. Like middle of December will be a year and a half.
Wow, and considering the before and after for you, which everybody can go and find on your Instagram, that's a pretty quick turnaround. That's pretty amazing that you've been able to have those results in that short of amount of time. I'm
Well, I had
I'm
nothing else to do except go to yoga. I lost my damn mind. So I don't know. I lost like 50 pounds. Yeah, I don't know. I worked really hard, but also what happened too, I mean, my personal, I mean, I think it's not smart to like lose weight and gain weight on hormones, but I lost a
mm,
lot of weight. And then when COVID started, couldn't really lean on my normal exercise routine because the yoga place I went to closed. And so like I didn't know when it was going to start again, and I was like eating like a ton of vegan chili because I was all stressed out. And I think I gained like 10 pounds in a month, and it was just like kind of all girl fat on my face too. I think that's just kind of like part of it. Like I kind of like just gained a bunch of fat on hormones, and it like went to
okay.
my face. Yeah.
You mentioned that you had a friend in high school that you came out to at about 18. Well, not came out to, but you that was the
Sort
first
of,
time you'd
yeah.
kind of vocalized this a little bit. Was she
Mm.
the first person you actually came out to?
I mean, I don't know. I kind of consider it, but like it's not. It wasn't really coming out as transgender. But it was the first person that I talked to, and like clearly, I mean, that's a pretty good description of what I was without saying transgender. I talked to her again. She actually works with me after all these years, and I talked to her one day at lunch, and I was like I'm transgender, and she's like, I know that. So, but I told her I was gonna like transition stuff,
Mm.
and yeah, so I guess I actually kind of came out to her twice, but I didn't really come out all at once. Are you asking like in general?
Well, yeah, no, it's just nice that you had that kind of like head start on it, so that when you had the conversation with her again, it was just super easy. So it's like, yeah, were you nervous that second time you met with her to actually tell her you were transgender?
That's like my oldest friend. I don't think I could say anything unless it was like actually bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't nervous. I was a bit anxious though, like excited, I guess, but not
Okay.
not happy excited, but like not nervous because of her reaction. Just like I felt like I was finally admitting it and like and gonna work on it.
Did you have a similarly easy and smooth set of conversations and reactions from other friends?
I've only had one friend who did not treat me well. Some old friends that I have, like won't talk to me anymore, but I don't think they're like I don't know what they're thinking exactly, but I have a feeling they're just thinking I like lost it. Guess I don't know. Hasn't really been any bad interactions, but there's been some lack of interactions.
Yeah, that's generally what I found. And it's kind of the nice thing of like the people that can't deal with it just sort of ghost you and sort of fade out, and just makes it nice and easy. What was your acceptance like at work? Are you at the same company that you're the same company you came out to, actually? I know that for a fact. So did that change anything? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I've actually worked there for like 15 years, so I think that maybe is the only weird thing about it is that so many people there know me so well. Like, there's people that I worked there for almost that entire time. So it's a bit odd to know somebody that well, but also not know them that well. You just like know them professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I feel really lucky to work where I do. Sometimes, like any job, there's hard things, but I feel like I've become such good friends with so many of my coworkers, even if I don't see them that often. Yeah, I mean, it is a record label too, so most like music industry spaces are pretty pro queer on any level because I mean they're big supporters of GLAAD, and yeah, I mean it's like not it's like gender bending. It's like nothing new in rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah, there
Yeah,
was the whole 80s, and after all.
yeah, like it's probably somewhere in my contract that I was supposed to wear a dress once a month anyway, and I was like, HR was like gonna talk to me anyways, and they're like, good, because you haven't been wearing a dress. Anyway, no, the only some people I think were like confused by it because they don't know what it looks like to be transgender. Like
Mm-hmm.
I looked like I did a year and a half ago, and I'm like I'm trans now. I didn't act well. It wasn't quite like that, but maybe the hormones. I wasn't looking like femme that much, but you know what? I started on hormones like it was June, and the things that bothered me the most, and it did bother me the most. One of the main things was my facial hair. I hated it so much. I was always jealous of guys that didn't have any facial hair. I was talking to a vet in my office, and I had been on hormones for like a month and a half, and I was like, yeah, I can't wait till like maybe I'm like be like 9 months in, I'll start getting laser and get rid of my beard.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, why don't you start right now? And I was like, oh yeah, let's get this thing out of here like right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and started getting laser, and your face breaks out, and sometimes it like scabs over, and it's so red. And my face was changing. I remember like one of the maintenance people like I was like on hormones for like 3 months maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the maintenance people like stopped me in the hallway, and they're like, what's going on? You look different. You look like your sibling or something. And I was like, oh my gosh. And people like I walked in out of my boss's office one day, and he's like, holy shit, what happened to your face? Like, I couldn't like I couldn't take it anymore.
uh,
um and so I just like had I didn't tell anybody. I just had HR change my name on my door. I was just like,
that's pretty hilarious. I think that's kind of funny to think about that in the context of work, and they're noticing this. Is just like, wait, is this like a doppelganger? Like, have you put in an imposter? Was what happened
yeah,
to our
it's
friend? Were they kidnapped, and this is a
well,
fake?
I didn't look that different, but my face was changing enough, and then like the like acne and like the scabbed over and redness. A
Mm-hmm.
vet just reminded me that people thought I was like straight up on drugs,
Oh.
just like just lost it. Also, I think I was like trying to wear makeup or like found I was trying to wear I was trying to slowly ease into makeup a little bit, so I was trying to wear like sunblock under foundation. I just looked like a ghost too. Like people, like people already think. Oh yeah, people already thought that I'm a. People already like think I'm a little eccentric, but they thought I just completely lost it. Oh yeah, and that also reminded me that I only wore blue for like 20 years. Like I didn't wear any other colors. I started wearing other colors to work, and people were like, "What the fuck?" So, yeah. So I didn't really. I told some people like what was going on, my close friends there, but I didn't like send out any emails or anything. They just changed the name on my door.
Hmm. But you did approach HR, right? Pretty early on.
I told them. Yeah, I told them pretty early on.
Okay. And then the other aspect is, well, there's two other aspects. Family. How did you come out to your family, and how did that response go?
I don't really have much family. I pretty much only have yeah, pretty much just like my mom, dad, and my sister. I made my neck all red. I always do that. Um, my mom, dad, and my sister, and like my stepdad and stepmom. But yeah, so I'm pretty close to my mom. I don't talk to her like every day, but I talk to her about everything. So she was kind of like helping a lot with things because of me and my wife having problems.
Hmm.
And I was just like driving. She drove me to work one day, and I told her about it. I showed her, yeah, I showed her a picture of like Sam. That's probably a pretty classic move to
Hmm.
show somebody like what would happen, kind of what happened,
Yeah.
and
And just for everybody in the chat, she's talking about showing pictures of suddenly Samantha, right? And the before and
yeah.
after pictures of kind of
Also,
this is what to
yeah,
expect.
I'm like a little bit older than Sam, but she's like, you know, has a job at a big company and stuff. It's like kind of a similar circumstance. So I was like kind of
Hmm.
explaining to my mom. And I think when somebody tells you something like that, they're kind of in shock.
Hmm.
So she was like pretty like, oh. But then like the next time I saw her, she was really worried about it because she didn't understand it, and she didn't want me to. She like asked me not to take the hormones, and I was like, I was just I was still struggling at the time. I probably had stopped taking them. That was like the month period of time where I had not taken them.
Okay.
So, but my mom's great. She loves her babies and she figures it out. So she actually like joined like a transgender parent support group, and she's like my biggest supporter for sure. She never. It's not like she didn't support me, but that's like she didn't know. So it was a big shock. I actually thought my dad would be difficult because he's like super conservative, but he just cares about me a lot, and he likes my he just wants to see his grandkids and stuff like that. So I actually didn't tell him for like 6 months, and I didn't talk to him, and my mom told him, and he was like, oh. So he just was like fine with it. I went over to his house like a week or two later, and him and his my stepmom were like already trying to use my pronouns and stuff.
Oh wow.
My sister unfortunately did not take it very well, and still, I don't really talk to her. But she doesn't live here, so
It's kind of one of those you don't see her that much anyway, so it sort of comes out in the wash a bit. That's disappointing though. I'm sorry that she doesn't support you.
I think she thinks she supports me, but she actually doesn't.
Hmm. What kind of level of support do you have from the community that you're in, and how has that helped?
Oh, I mean, I can't even begin to say how much support I have. Yeah, like I said, I have so many coworkers who I like, even some that I knew like pretty well before, but didn't talk to them in line at the bathroom and or whatever, or at parties. But I didn't really, people from other departments and stuff. My work is pretty big.
Mm.
Um, lots of girls there. They kind of like took care of me a little bit more when I was out like for some work thing, and people brought me makeup and makeup bags. And I mean, some of my coworkers have been the most supportive because it just made me, they were excited for me, really.
Hmm.
I don't know, I could go on for a long time, and I don't know, all like the cis girlfriends I have, they immediately just were excited for me. And I didn't actually have much time before COVID. I kind of like started in
Mm-hmm.
June, and then like I wasn't even really looking femme until March to April, like at all. Like I was looking very different, but I don't think I was looking like female-ish in the photo till then.
Okay.
So like once COVID, like I didn't really get to go out or anything, but I did. I like one of my friends took me out in Long Beach and stuff like that. So I feel like I have a ton of support. I feel really lucky.
Oh, that's so awesome. Did you have any support from anybody that you weren't expecting?
No, but you know what I will say too about people that support me. I'm lucky. Yeah, you know what's also I'm really lucky is I actually tried to quit my job. My boss, I've worked with him for like 10 years, and he's like this gay dude. He's just all he's lived in LA for a long time. And
Hmm.
I was feel this was like that month where I didn't take hormones, and I was feeling really guilty, and I had a bunch of money saved up, and I was gonna like quit my job, and my wife was getting my wife at the time, my ex, she was getting really antsy, and so I was like, okay, well you can like go back to your job or career, or like we'll figure something out, and I can stay with the babies, or we have like some time. I don't know. I kind of lost it, and I was just gonna like focus on my family because I felt so bad,
Mm.
and I was gonna knock all this shit off. I tried to quit. I
Uh-huh.
typed up a resignation letter and everything, and I went in my boss's office, and he's like, "What's going on?" He like would not let me,
Uh-huh.
and I was, and eventually he got it on me, and I just started crying. Like I started taking hormones, and I like stopped, and I was like, I was trying to double down and like just make it work, and he said like he sounds like, wow, that sounds like a slow death.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess like the best part is like and he in that same day he said, I have lots of transgender friends, and I've seen how they blossom and how much better of a person they become, and how much more like themselves they come.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I think the only downside is to it is he thinks it's like so not a big deal that like when I am struggling with something, he's like, "Oh, okay." To him, he's like, "Oh, good, you're taking care of yourself." Like he just doesn't even care. Like he cares, but you know what I mean? Like it's just so
He's just super
it's like
nonchalant about it.
it's
Yeah.
so normal. Yeah, it's like so normal in his world to like see people do that and take care of themselves that he's just like, yeah. Anyways, I got a good boss. I'm lucky there too. He's been
Yeah.
really supportive.
So you mentioned that you had pictures of Samantha when you were starting out and going coming out to your mom. Were you already a part of the transgender community? Were you kind of like following and starting to become active there?
No, and I didn't even have an Instagram at the time. I had like one that I had used personally that I hadn't updated in like a couple of years. Like I didn't use Instagram, and then I deleted it too. Like I think that saw Samantha on Reddit. I mean, I
Mm,
definitely saw her on Reddit. But
okay.
there was there's like a few transgender people. It depends on your like age and stuff, but they resonate with you because you're like, "Oh, they did that." My friend, I showed a vet picture, like a before and after picture of Samantha, like in the beginning too, and she was like, "I think you need to taper your expectations."
Yeah, I'll just kind of catch up on some of the things that people have been saying in the chat here really quick. Someone was saying that they are really jealous of how quickly you took to, or how quickly you nailed the makeup game. They say, then again, you're an artist, so you advantage you.
Well, first off, I went to Sephora. Does have these transgender makeup classes, and they're trying
Mm,
to sell you stuff, but they're actually pretty good. And then I went to this class, LGBT Center, and I made friends with the teacher, this makeup artist, and she's like a celebrity makeup artist. She does like lots of like music artists really. Her name is Melissa Murdoch, and
oh, I've heard that name.
yeah, so
Hmm.
she has a thing on Instagram. I totally recommend her. Um, she has a an account just for her makeup tutorials called The Pretty Fix. Anyway, I she needed somebody to do one of her videos, and she sent out a big email, and I mailed her back, and I I was like the first one, and so she did my makeup. That helped a lot because seeing somebody put makeup on you properly, you can like see like where on your body, like on your face, stuff should go. And then
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that she is just a good teacher. So I highly recommend that. She just like kind of like she talks in a way of like how to look at your face and like line stuff up with like your nose, your nostril, and your eyes, and like where to put like rouge and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a couple of friends who are like really good at makeup and skincare. I don't know. It's not like I figured this out myself. It's like, yeah, but I definitely recommend the Pretty Fix for transgender makeup. She does a class like once a week, and I think it's still like pay as much as you can,
Oh, wow.
or
That's
free.
amazing.
And then she does private lessons too. Yeah, I recommend her. And there's stuff on her YouTube and her Instagram that's just sitting there. And she always has good tips in her stories too.
Hmm.
I'm a big
Okay.
fan. It's at the Pretty Fix, one word.
Hmm. Okay. So, how far along would you say you are in your journey, and what are your next steps?
I'm a little bit older, so I feel like the hormone stuff takes a little bit longer to happen. But I feel like in general, hormones affect your face for a year or two and your body for a few years.
Hmm.
So I think I'm somewhere halfway through. I just keep doing stuff that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that was one of the key things that I did at the start was to tell myself the first I was going to take a year, and I was just going to I wasn't going to answer any questions of myself. I was just going to go and do whatever I felt whatever felt good and whatever I wanted to do, and then I was going to try and kind of like support myself, have my own back of like I decided to wear this, so we're going to go with it. We're going to hold our head high and just be confident. But like I said, I made sure to take that pressure off of like no asking like what is this or why do I want to do this or any of that. Just kind of let it be, and I feel like that really helped. Definitely, at least early on.
You don't have to like sit and wait for 5 years and like all these surgeries or something like that to feel better. Like I fucking hated my beard. Like I hated it. And
Mm-hmm.
my hair and things like that, I took care of that shit immediately and I made me feel really good. I don't have any facial hair now. I don't need to shave. I did 15 rounds of laser. That stuff is
Hmm.
not here anymore.
Wow, and you accomplished that all with just laser, not even electrolysis, huh?
I don't know if you guys look at my before pictures, but yeah, I mean laser is like not always the best option, but the ideal candidate for laser is light skin, dark hair, and I had black wires for a beard, and obviously my skin's somewhat pale, so
Mm,
it reacted really well. I had to do a lot of rounds, but and you have to touch it up sometimes, but in general, I mean it's gone. I mean like
nice.
it's completely gone.
So the red hair isn't natural color then?
No. It's dark brown. Although there's like an auburn tone to it. If I
Mm,
This is like kind of my hair color if I just this actually is my hair color a little bit, but only in this spot. It gets darker up here. That's
mm,
my natural color. There it is.
in the roots there, yeah.
Hmm. Now I lightened it. Oh my gosh, I fried my. That's why you think this is like stylish maybe, I don't know, but I fried my bangs. I tried to go lighter and I'm like a 13-year-old. I bleached the shit out of them and I fried them and my hair I look like Yolandi or something. My hair is like this long right here, so I I just clip it down right now. Yeah, no, I started at first I was like so conservative. I was doing a little bit of lemon juice and like that overtone like colored conditioner, and it was going so well, and then thought I could do that. And I'm gonna have some nice bangs in like 3 months.
Are you looking towards any surgeries?
I like am pretty happy with the way my face is gone, but
Mm-hmm.
I actually think I'm gonna get FFS. My forehead just kind of I'd like to blend in eventually, so I think I might do that. I think I hear other transgender people saying the same thing is like you feel like so invalid and you feel like such a fraud in the beginning. And you're
Mm-hmm.
so hard on yourself. You're like I just like was like I'm not that I am still pretty basic, but you just like don't think you're like that queer or like need to do all these things. And as you start like taking care of yourselves and like yeah, I mean like when you start figuring out what's actually bothering you, I mean like I figured out like just to figure out that all this body dysphoria is causing you social dysphoria and then like what are the things that are bothering you, you start to get more detailed and I mean I don't know where I'll stop with surgeries. I don't know. I think I will probably get a lot of surgeries.
You think you'll get a lot of surgeries?
I guess so. I I think that I think I'm just like so hard on myself in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning and think I don't need things or that I'm making stuff up in my head and then you
Yeah.
realize like how much better it makes you feel just doing little things. It's okay to change your body to ways that make you feel better. It's your
Mm.
body.
I have noticed that too, that the more steps you take, the easier the next step is. Like steps that used to scare the crap out of me, and there's no
Oh,
way I would ever do it. Once I started to approach it, then by the time I get there, it's just like it's super easy. It's like, well, yeah, it's obvious. I really want to do this. Let's
yeah.
see.
I'm pretty scared, but
Well, that ties really well into my next question. What are some of the fears that you've had along your transition, and how have you overcome them?
well, the worst thing in the beginning was I felt like I was taking things away from my family
Hmm.
and my kids, but I was pretty miserable. And like I was talking about that duplicity stuff before, you have these two like dialogues happening in your head and they don't actually interact for you, but they're affecting each other. And I was a pretty unhappy person, and
Hmm.
I didn't really realize I did in a lot of ways, especially as in the last few years, but I didn't really realize how much like physical dysphoria was causing me like so much dissociation and like social anxiety, like just horrible, horrible social anxiety.
Hmm.
And it's like so much better now. So
Well, it sounds like you've got a good perspective on it, and you're able to kind of deal with them as they come along and move right through it. What were some of the biggest hurdles that you ran into in your transition?
not only did I have like so much internalized transphobia, I felt really guilty, like I was taking things away from my family and other people, and you just like I said, you don't really understand how much it's like affecting you, and you don't understand how much better of a person you are if you just take care of yourself. Like I'm such a better person with my kids,
Yeah.
and I can handle like that's the thing though too. I mean like transition you think transitioning is going to solve a lot of problems, and it actually doesn't solve any problems. It just lets you actually approach problems healthily for like once in your life.
Hmm.
So um yeah, I think like that was the hardest thing for me, really. Like I and I still struggle with it, is the problem. I felt really guilty in the beginning, and then besides all the internalized transphobia that I had, I started reading like a bunch of gender critical shit when I didn't really know. I'd never really dove into that stuff before, and I started. I mean, it's all bullshit, but it's I didn't really know all the details and the minutia of like the common stuff that gets slung around.
Hmm.
So that was really hard for me in the beginning too, and I still feel guilty. I still miss my family, so that's actually probably the biggest hurdle. Is
Yeah.
I still deal with it, and I have hard days. That's actually the hardest part, probably.
Hmm. But I love what you brought out about, you know, hearing all these negative things, or these, you know, essentially anti-trans things that are thrown around and are super common. And the problem with that, like you said, you've got this kind of transphobia within yourself, just societally, that we've grown up with that, and that's just ingrained in us. And we apply that to ourselves in our transition, and then we keep hearing these little things from here and there, and we're realizing it's not true, and it doesn't apply to us or whatever, but it validates the negativity we have in our own heads. Like it fosters that
Sure.
same kind of self-hatred, basically, because it's like we're predisposed to feel the same way, to like kind of reject against it. Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially like I realize like I really don't have any doubt anymore. But like yeah, you can still, even if you don't have any doubt, if you're surrounded by people who are like don't think you're real, you can still feel like shit because
Hmm.
it's like kind of there forever. And it's unfortunate because it's like just not that big of a deal, really.
What role has therapy had in your transition? Have you been seeing a therapist, and has it helped you to deal with some of these issues of, like, I don't want to use, well, I guess self-hatred is an appropriate term.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have therapists. I was having a really hard time. Yeah, no, I've had two therapists while I've been transitioning. They helped me a lot. I had the therapist that I was seeing when I first started transitioning. She really helped me feel valid, and she helped me deal with the little things that happen with transitioning, and she kind of like made it feel normal, like all the stuff that I was actually worried about and fighting with internally. She kind of made it seem illegitimate because it was.
Okay.
And I think that's like the biggest way she helped me. And she was like really excited. She's such a big transgender supporter. It was like almost she was almost too enthusiastic about it. And then I have another therapist now that I see at the LGBT center,
Mhm.
and he's really great. He's helped me with like other issues, more with like grief with transitioning because I gave up a lot.
Yeah. We had a guest on the show, and she talked about that. You when you're transitioning, you got to be ready for the consequences, and the main consequence is loss. There's loss that you have throughout life, and so it totally makes sense that grief counseling is sort of a part of it, and being able to deal with everything that's going on.
Those are the two things that I pretty much still deal with. And I was actually having the body issues and your actual gender and how they relate is extremely complicated. And once you start, I think, like listening to, it's just like so interesting how your brain manifests like these misalignments into
Mm.
like everyday world things that are like tangible to you, like that I actually thought when I was a little kid, like that I didn't get to be a girl. Like my brain knew something was like wrong, and I like it manifested in a way that I could like actually think about it. That's the other thing that I've dealt with a lot is once I started dealing with the body stuff, I actually started dealing with the gender stuff, which is like the relationship to what was misaligned with my body, and it's actually been really hard. So I've been dealing with that too, but those have been two biggest things that I currently deal with in therapy is kind of like gender things, and there's a lot of grief, a lot
Mm.
of loss.
I just love that concept that you had a your first therapist was super enthusiastic about it, and was all gung ho. The same thing as your boss. You've had these people that are more into it and excited about it than you are, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is no big deal," and all of that, and you're like, "No, I'm freaking out here, man."
Yeah, well, I mean, like not in a bad way. They're not like hand waving at me. They're just they like see how positive and necessary and how much people they've known grow. And my therapist too is just she my therapist actually became she kind of considers herself like a gender therapist. And the way that she got into it was because she was a school counselor and she was seeing all these kids that were really depressed and there was like no reason, but they were like going through puberty and like you know some
Huh.
super dark shit just like I was. And she really just like kept she worked for an entire school district, so it's not like she was seeing a million transgender kids, but she come across like half a dozen in a few years, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is like so sad. So she
Mm-hmm.
really got into it. So I feel like she also like I've had so many therapists over my life, and the shit that I've said in these therapy sessions, any therapist with like any amount of training would be like, hey, have you ever like these thoughts or anything? But
Yeah, any therapist worth
I've
their
had
salt, right? You know.
yeah, I mean, like I know that some therapists have probably only been recently trained well, but like the stuff I've said in therapy sessions over the last 2 decades is like just like beyond red flag stuff. And she just also is she's just like seen it so many times in young people in all ages. So I feel like she was just like really confident. She was confident in who I was, so like she made it really easy to discredit all the like pretty much trash that I had floating around in my head.
Well, and like you alluded to, it's so hard for us to really understand anything, and one of the main reasons is because we felt this way our whole lives. So this kind of incongruence and the struggle just feels like, well, that's normal. That's like that's being a boy, and it's not till later when we start to have these conversations with people, therapists and others and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, so cis people don't question their gender or wish to be the other one? Like that's not a thing, and it
Oh
really makes
yeah.
sense why puberty hits so hard and why it's such a struggle for us is because it's like it just brings everything, it just amplifies everything exponentially.
No, that's actually a big revelation that happens, and I think it happens to a lot of transgender people. I legitimately thought that being like a man or like a boy was about being attracted to women because like you liked like you wish you were them or something. And like I like it's still crazy to me. I mean, like when like I don't understand why every guy doesn't want to transition. Like I like that is crazy to me that you want to transition. And
Uh-huh.
I like just I could not understand for so long. I just thought that like, oh yeah, of course you would like other guys must be dealing with this, but in a different way, or like I said, they're not as self-aware. But I went to this there was camp I always went to in high school, and the groups where you slept together were co-ed, and so they had this, all these like stupid bullshit questions to get people to know each other in the beginning, and one of them was like, do you wish you were a boy or girl? Like, would you switch? And it's a stupid question. The girls are supposed to be like, ew, guys are gross, and I like having long hair, and the guys are supposed to be like, I like pee standing up or something. I don't know, but like I was like, my first thought was like, oh yeah, it would definitely be a girl, and then I realized like what a joke it was to everybody else, and I was like, oh, everybody doesn't think like that, and like I just really didn't. I didn't think everybody thought like I did, but it was just a straight up hilarious
Hmm.
scenario to all these people, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm the only one that thinks like that.
Was that another one of those moments that we kind of come across in life that make us feel or show us basically that it's wrong to be that way and we should push it down?
Yeah, I guess it didn't make me feel that particular instance didn't make me so bad. I mean, the worst things are like all those horrible movies from the 90s like Ace Ventura and stuff. When I saw that movie, oh man. Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing from that was like I was just so surprised that people, like, it's not even like people didn't even think about it. Like I was so far off in my like internal dialogue. Like people didn't even consider it. It was when you brought up the scenario to them, it was beyond comical.
Hmm.
And and I mean, maybe they learned that from movies too, like Ace Ventura, but it's like people don't think like that. If you present them that scenario, they might laugh about it for a second or be curious what it would be like, but there's nobody who would want to switch
Hmm.
bodies like that.
It's funny, you mentioned Ace Ventura, and that's come up on the show a lot. I think that was
The worst fucking movie.
it's a great movie, but the
Wow.
that part is pretty horrible. The funny thing is that I'm just realizing now as we're talking about it that it wasn't. It was a time in my life when I wasn't aware I was transgender. I was long off from discovering that that was what it was going on inside my head and defining myself as that. I mean, that was 20 years earlier. What I'm thinking now and what I'm remembering is, she's standing there in kind of a silky white bra and panty set. And I remember going, ooh, like that was sort of the main thing I got from that scene was like those are really nice. I wish I could wear those. And it wasn't until like really, probably pretty recent that I realized, how anti-trans that is and how it's just another one of those tropes of, how everybody thinks it's so gross to have kissed the guy and all that crap. Um,
Well, definitely, but I think I got two things from that movie. One, it was kind of like the way I thought when I was in my 20s. I thought that you go and have surgery and you disappear because nobody's going to want to know you or have anything to do with you.
mm,
And two, I thought it was like when I was watching the movie, obviously like the character, um whatever, is it like,
Einhorn.
yeah, whatever, she is like just played by some cis woman. So I was like, that's so unrealistic. Like trans people can't look like actual women,
Mm.
like born women. And I just like that's just something I never considered. But obviously that no, that movie confirmed how disgusting I was by thinking those things, because I mean there's a whole scene dedicated to Ace throwing up in the bathroom because he kissed somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, and
So
basically trans shaming, like this is the worst thing to people. I mean, it was all
yeah,
men, but
you're
they were prominent men, and Ace. You spent this whole movie kind of falling in love with Ace, and then there's the whole football team and everything, and it's just the cops. Everybody is so grossed out by this because it's such an abhorrent thing.
it definitely made me disgusted too with myself. It
Hmm.
was horrible. It was the worst movie. I'm still scarred from that movie.
So getting on to hopefully we'll be a little bit more a little bit happier, I suppose. How confident do you feel as a woman these days?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I separate all the things about me into different things, I guess. I definitely consider myself a woman, but it's just the thing that closest makes me feel good in this society, like in how we interact with things. But I kind of consider my body issues and dysphoria separate from my gender. I don't know like where I get my confidence from, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm definitely confident in that I am doing the right thing, I guess, if that's a good answer to the question. I am extremely confident, even though
Mm-hmm.
I have really hard days where I wish I could go back and change something or try harder not to transition, which I tried so hard. It was so
I think that's
pointless.
another pretty common one is the fight against it, trying so hard not to be this, and feeling defeated and worse about ourselves when we're unable to fight it. Because when we're losing that battle, it's also about, I think it's a time early on when we don't understand it, and we don't understand that, it took me a long time to get away from negativity, and then I was thinking, well, is it like a positive thing or whatever? Just have it being neutral, like this is just who I am, and it's a neutral thing. It's a struggle to get there.
The more I transition, the more I realize I'm just matching my body to myself. So
Mm,
I don't really feel that different. I just feel better. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just learning about who I am and being able to articulate it.
mm,
Whereas before it was just, you know what I would describe before I transition? I don't know if you guys have seen like when they do those like kind of like out of body like psychological experiments where they like put a camera behind somebody and you have a VR thing on, so it's like you're watching your body in third person and your brain actually like learns how to deal with that. And they have people like walk around all day seeing themselves like in third person like they're in some fucking game. And like
trippy.
it's that's kind of like how I felt for so long, like that I was not literally looking at my body from behind, but that's like what it feels like to be that uncomfortable in your body, like especially in social situations. So I just, or the one where they put fake hands on a table and you put your hands like beneath the table and they like rub a feather on the like the fake arm and you eventually feel it. Like I just felt like I felt so horrible
Mm, just
before.
disconnected.
It's just like there's no doubt in my mind. Like I just feel like 1,000 times better. As sad as I am, and as much regret as I have, and as doubt as I have, I'm like extremely confident.
Mm. Yeah, you're very confident that you're much better off now.
Yeah,
Mm. So what causes you to feel dysphoric at times these days?
yeah. I mean, I know transgender people like certain things bother them way more, and I don't think that there's well, there's certainly not like girl and boy brains, but I feel like with transgender people there's like a bunch of stuff that could not match might not match up and it's different for everybody, but it's like a real kind of like some sort of hardwired thing that just didn't got something of something else. But yeah, for me like it's mostly my beard was a big thing, like yeah, like you were saying earlier, puberty sucks for transgender people, but yeah, everybody's like puberty's really hard and you're like yeah, this is like absolutely horrifying. Like the beard was the worst part for me. I was just so jealous, like guy friends would be like, "Oh, I wish I could grow a beard," and they have peach fuzz, and I'd be like, I wish I had peach fuzz." That was a big thing for me. But my voice is a really big thing. I've been working really hard on it. I don't use it like now or in general. I'm too shy to use it. But
Oh.
I think my voice and my shoulders and my chest. I have a really bad chest dysphoria, and it keeps getting better as the hormones go on. But
Hmm.
that was a really big thing for me. I don't know how to describe it to people who aren't trans, but like it's kind of like when you have something that's like so stressful and just hanging over your head. Like if you have like a big paper in school or like just something that's just on your back for months and you kind of like you fix it or you finish it and it goes well, but the anxiety of it taking over you is still there, but then you like remember that it's like over and you kind of have that like wash of like relief and you like constantly get it. And
Mm.
I get that now. Like sometimes I'll be laying in bed and I'll look down at my chest and like I'm starting to have a chest and I'll just be like it just like washes over me. It just like makes sense to my brain.
Mm.
So those are like the big ones for sure. Those four things.
What were some of the biggest learning curves that you've run into in transitioning? Things that you weren't expecting or are having to adjust to?
I mean, I feel so much better when people like gender me properly. And I think one of the hard things now is like I could deal with it when people were still. I feel like when I'm out in public now, I get gendered properly 50% of the time, and
Okay.
I just it's kind of like I feel so much better when I'm gendered properly. I could deal with like somebody misgendering me, but not knowing how they're going to gender me is like kind of stressful, I guess.
Yeah.
Like how I should act a little bit.
Hmm.
I was leaving the CVS the other day, and some dude was riding by on a bike, and he's like, "Is that your natural hair color? It goes really well with your skin." So gross. But you know what? He was kind of right though. Like I really did put some thought into it. So
Hmm.
I guess I can't be too mad. It is weird though for to get comments like that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's a societal thing. Like, I think that the touching is somewhat inappropriate, and I get how it is, but I think it's sort of
I
brought
agree.
on by the fact that men are more emotional and are want to connect more than we think, and then they're allowed to. So like a guy can't touch another guy. Like it's weird. And a guy can't really compliment another guy. So they turn all that attention to women, and women I don't think compliment guys very much, because if they do, then the guy's just gonna think that, oh, this chick's in love with me, so like I'm gonna follow her for the rest of her life, kind of a thing. So it's just this kind of weird one-sided thing, and it's like I've been thinking about it recently. Is it really that guys are so creepy or whatever, or is it just that fact of like that's the only time they can express that sort of thing, so that's the only time it comes out, and it's not until you transition genders that you really start to see that. Just a little thing to think about there.
Maybe a little A and a little B.
Yeah. Um, well, as we start to wrap up this section, let's move on to what I think is the funnest one. How did you choose your name?
My other name is Jonathan, so I never disliked it, but yeah, I mean I actually kind of liked it. I didn't like being called it, but I liked the cadence of it. I liked my initials and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um I just went through a lot of names, and Jossilyn kind of has the same cadence.
Yeah.
And my mom's name is Lynn, so I thought it was kind of like Little Lynn.
Aw.
I like being called Jossie. Probably almost everybody calls me Jossie. All my coworkers call me Jossie. All my friends call me Jossie. So
Mm.
it's like kind of a flexible name too, to spell it that way. So yeah, I just liked it. I liked it pretty quickly. Yeah, it sounds like the kind of the feminine version of my name that always should have been. But also, nobody ever called me Jonathan anyway. Everybody called me my surname's Lane.
Mm-hmm.
I like even my coworkers call me Lane. I just always encouraged it because it's so
Ah.
androgynous.
And I gotta tell you, I love the name Jocelyn too. It's got such a classical beauty kind of sound to it. It's pretty unique. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for finding that one. That's really cool. The final question that we always ask is the big one, the one that I think helps people the most here. What is the key advice that you have for young or closeted trans people who are looking to transition?
That's hard because there's such a different set of problems for young people versus somebody like me. I mean, for me, it's kind of ripped apart a life that I had really established, and I lost a lot of things. But on the other hand, I mean, I have a good job, I have a lot of stability, I have good insurance. Whereas, like, a young person might be dealing with being kicked out of their home or
Mm-hmm.
and no access to medication, maybe even violence against them. So if you're asking like what I would recommend blanket is that there are so many things you can do to transition besides taking hormones. I mean, hormones obviously change the shape of my face and my body quite a bit, but the most dramatic things about my transition have been taking care of my body overall and weight loss and like going to yoga and jogging and skincare. And you can do all those things right away. You can learn about makeup and you can grow your hair out. There's lots of other things to transitioning besides taking estrogen or taking
Mm-hmm.
testosterone or whatever.
Yeah, that some people might not have access to as they start their journey. But yeah, I think that's good advice. That as you start to allow yourself to do that, and then kind of find that love for yourself, you can start to really take care of yourself and just make everything better.
Yeah, I mean, like never took care of myself or my body, and yeah, I was so hard on it, and I didn't. It's not that I like hated my body. It just was like I didn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you decide that you're gonna take care of it, it does change your perspective. And yeah, there's a lot you can do without being able to medically transition or having to wait a while, or if you're still living with your parents or whatever, you can do so many things that it doesn't put you in danger, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you for that. Everybody, have a great night. Thank you for coming.